Hello, Lou Hamilton from Audible Elegance in Cincinnati, Ohio. We're located a couple doors north of the Montgomery Inn on Montgomery Road and across the street from Montgomery Cyclery. We do work on blog, which is on the website. That's a personal item from me. And we do things on Facebook, X, and Instagram. I'd like to talk about ASC, Acoustic Sciences Corporation, and tube traps. Probably one of the most misunderstood treatment systems out there. And I thought I'd have a little time to explain what they're all about, how they work, and why there's different diameters, and how to set them up and play with them. If you have ways of properly measuring acoustical effects in your room, I know that there are programs for your phone and iPads and things. Keep in mind, if you do use those type of programs, the results you're going to get are going to be affected by the quality of the microphone in the device. That's the reason if you get real serious, you're using calibrated microphones and real test equipment. But phones will get you somewhat in the ballpark, but don't trust them as the absolutes. The first thing you have to understand about a tube trap is that there is a seam. We mark ours on top. This is full absorption, and the opposite side is full reflection. And the way that they work is you have an open seam here, slot, and it goes in, and that particular range that the trap is designed for is handled, absorbed, or can be reflected. And you have intermediate steps all the way around. So as you're trying to tune a room, if you have cylinders, you actually have to play with the positioning of the trap. And if you have tower traps, you have both the bottom and the top. Keep in mind that they're not going to be matched up seam to seam all the way around. You may find that one trap is at one particular, let's say clockwise or counterclockwise. The other trap may be just the opposite, or maybe full reflection. It depends upon what's happening in the room. Now, they also produce what are known as half rounds, which is what we have here. This is targeting a particular frequency range. They also make quarter rounds, trying to do similarly, not quite as effective as the half rounds, but you're working from the corners. And the mistake that a lot of people make with the full rounds is understanding that there's more to them than meets the eye. And that's because they can also be very effective down. And I did this earlier today in a setup where we had a rack in here. So we had all sorts of information going between underneath this table, as well as that rack, and causing havoc beyond belief. And what it turned out to be was to have it as full reflection if we were having them upright, but it still didn't sound quite right to me. So we went full absorption, laying them on the floor, and that solved everything that we were after. So keep in mind that tube traps can be used multiple different ways. Obviously, something laying on the floor like this is oftentimes less acceptable to a lot of people as opposed to something that's neat and tidy to the walls. So it depends upon what you can do in your environment. The half rounds as well can be extraordinarily effective if they're used on the ceiling. So rather than having pads like this that we have properly staggered and placed, half rounds attached to the ceiling can be extraordinarily effective. But again, you have to understand what you're doing by measurement with the ASC products. We've represented them for nearly 40 years, and they make them in a huge range of colors. And they're not something, that we ourselves can discount, because there's very little profit in this. Where the money is to be made for us, and this is a service I'm going to be offering fairly shortly, is the professional understanding of what's going on and how to use them. It's the knowledge of how to use the tool, not the tool itself. And I'll have the proper test equipment so I can go in and figure out what's going on. And sound treatment is a general topic, can be severely misunderstood. I've had a couple cases where I've been asked to come in and treat office spaces because the secretary is out somewhat off the lobby area, could actually hear the men's conversation in their bathroom. And what they wanted me to do was to damp the living hell out of the area so the secretaries couldn't hear it. And in fact, what they needed was more ambient noise in that type of application. So the net result was I didn't sell them anything, but I did have them turn up the fan speed on the blowers for the HVAC, and that provided enough masking noise to eliminate the ability to hear conversations in a very anechoic type room, very hard. And so you really have to understand what you're after and what you're trying to cure. And so that's a quick overview of the ASC. We're going to do a more intense one. I'm going to see if I can get one that I can literally rip apart. I know that some people have tried to make their own to various degrees of success. And the reason we really can't discount these things is because we have to pay freight to us from Oregon. And while there's not much weight to these puppies, there's what we call dimensional weight. And that's where things really get ugly. Anybody who tries to buy these things used, well, I'll give you a fun tip. Because if you put these in a square cardboard box, I'll guarantee you they're going to wind up mashed at one end or the other. Here's a fine example of one being mashed. What you actually get are from Lowe's or Home Depot are the forms for concrete, because they make circular forms, incredibly strong tubes, and I've been able to ship used sets of these using those tubes, and then I come up with my own foam block ends to make sure nothing happens to them being compressed. So if someone says they're going to put this in a cardboard box and send it to you, be prepared to have something that's mashed or dented. And the framework is literally chicken wire. The older ones are in fact stronger because they used a heavier gauge of wire. The newer ones are using a lighter gauge to get the form. That was a change in the manufacturers that they didn't want, but it makes them more susceptible to freight damage. So be very careful about that. ASC does not use concrete forms. They actually use an octagonal box. So the box around these is roughly about 2 inches all the way around. The packaging is very effective, but again, it's not something you make your money selling these puppies. So if a dealer does sell these things, please understand he's paying the freight, and with freight on board, what he gets is what he gets. So if they're damaged, you have to rely upon the dealer to say, okay, we're going to fix this one. And that's how it goes. But I love the product. I'm going to do a demonstration here in a moment. I'm not going to film it for a customer of mine to show him how horizontal and verticals work. But if you have set at home, don't forget to try horizontal. Thank you.